Hello and welcome to this week's Samplecast. I'm your host Ruben Cornell. This is number 19. We'll be on a short break after next week's show, but in the meantime you can catch up with all the information that you need about the show on the Facebook group, on Twitter and on the Samplecast website. That's thesamplecast.com. Don't forget you can always check out the Samplecast podcast for an extended version of the show with more music and other goodies like that. So let's get on with the show. Firstly, this week's Roundup, and we're kicking off with Motor Rhythms from Soundiron. This runs in the full version of Contact. It's 6.5 gigabytes in size, and it samples a drum kit from musical artist and mechanic Jordan Hill. It's basically a drum kit made from car parts, so you've got things like oil containers, gas tanks, brake drums, clutch discs, and things like that. There are 34 distinct instruments here with close and far mic settings, and Soundiron have also developed 50 sound design pads, leads and grooves as additional instruments for your listening pleasure. Check it out at the Soundiron website. I had the opportunity to put the tutorial video together for Orange Tree Sample's RIC 12 guitar. It runs in the free and the full version of Contact, and it's over 4 gigabytes uncompressed. It samples a 12-string electric guitar and has a warm, rich, kind of lush tone. It's got that nice twangy feeling that 12-string guitars have. Now, it uses their Evolution engine. There's a lot of their products that use that particular engine, so there's loads of different articulations that have been captured there, including legato samples for slides, hammer-ons and pull-offs. There's also the strum engine and an effects rack too, with over $10,000 of modelled effects. Check it out at the Orange Tree Samples website in the description below. A couple of packs now for those that are more into their dance music. This is Sick Loops Explosion Groove House. Sick Loops are a new company to me. They contacted me during the week and I had a little listen to the products on their website. Good stuff there. This particular pack is electro and progressive house in the style of Hardwell and Danik. Nearly 500 megabytes of content here, so that's 275 files in all at 128 BPM. And the kit consists of 8 full construction kits, 46 silent presets, 81 shots, and a few other bits and bobs as well. So have a look at the Sick Loops website if you're into packs for dance, EDM, and house production. Sticking with a similar kind of vibe, we've got Looper Sounds Underground Tech House, and this is sold via the Synth Mob website. I've not featured these guys before on the show, so hello to Piero who contacted me. They sell via Synth Mob, as I say, which is a marketplace site for synth presets, sample packs and Contact instruments, and this budget price pack features drum, bass, synth and percussion loops, and a whole bunch of bass and synth hits too. It's all in the kind of tech house vibe. If you're into that, check it out. Thank you so much to Time and Space for sorting me out with a copy of Gothic Instruments Sculptor 1 Live Impacts. This is a new series from Gothic Instruments from the developers of Dronar, which I covered in the very first Samplecast show. That seems like a long time ago. The sounds here have been sourced from fire, wood, metal and explosive effects, and the raw material has been processed by Hollywood sound designer Alessandro Camnasio. Here you've got just over 1/4 gigabyte of sounds. It runs in the full version of Contact, and basically it's an impact and smash designer, perfect for trailer scoring and effects, that kind of thing. There are 3 main sections of the interface to assign sounds to. So you've got a pre-whoosh section, an impact section, and the last one is for decay. You can assign these sounds yourself, or you can use the randomize button too. And all of those sounds route through to the effects panel, which includes drive, compression, filter, delay, and reverb. I do like a library that's priced realistically, and this is definitely the case here. The price is reasonable, I think, for the content and flexibility that you get within the Contact interface itself. There's some clever mapping here as well. The keyboard keys are duplicated so that you can do multiple hits, and you've got gating keys towards the top of the keyboard to enable you to kind of give that Transformers effect if you program some fast gating notes into those key switches. I also thought the velocity control programming was rather clever. You can adjust the volume and filter by playing at different velocities. Also, the snapshots that are included are expansive. There's lots of them, some by some composers that you'll have heard of. There's nothing at all wrong with the interface and how this instrument performs. It's very good, very competent. There's only a few things that I think could be improved. Firstly, the pitch and pan controls, I think they should be individual for the individual parts of the sound. It would have been nice to have a high-pitched rise and then a low-pitched impact, or vice versa. You couldn't seem to do that on the interface as far as I could gather. Of course, you could assign those two different sections of the sound to two different keys, but that's a little bit more work than I was prepared to put in. On the subject of that interface, it is a little bit distracting. There's a big animation that plays across the whole interface every time you trigger a sound. I can see some people are really going to love it and really give a kind of visual impact to the sound that they're creating. But me personally, I've just found it a little bit distracting. The last thing I would have liked was the option to download maybe the raw sample content, so just some WAV or AIFF files to drag and drop into my projects that were using sound effects. They'd have been quite useful without having to go through the contact interface. Sculptor Volume 1 does a very specific thing, but it does that thing really well. And aside for the points that I've mentioned, which, as I say, they're just really personal preference, I think this is a library that, for those that are doing really powerful trailers, are going to want to pick up straight away. This is Bargain VST, the section of the show for bargains and discounts, and you can probably tell by the amount that I'm sweating in my studio that it's summertime and there's loads of summer sales on at the moment, so I'm going to quickly run through a few of them. Samplephonics, I mentioned them last week, and now they've got 40% off everything, so it's a good time to pick up not just the packs that I mentioned in Samplecast 18, but all of their other packs too. There's 30% off at Mode Audio. They've also got a lot of new releases at the moment. There's 40% off at Loopmasters, and Black Octopus Sound have up to 50% off. You can check out one of their new libraries from Drum Sound and Bassline Smith. They sent it to me. It's really good stuff. There's also buy one get one free off of plugins at Soft Rave. Worth having a look at those. I can't possibly round up all of the summer sales, but those are my personal highlights. A quick mention for Sampletekk's Rain Piano Mark II, which is available from VST Buzz. Do check the description in the link below to go straight to the product page. The piano has been inspired by the work of Tom Waits, and it runs in the full version of Contact. They've sampled up to 11 velocity levels here, and you get a warm and kind of shimmering sound from this library. It's very nice. It's perfect for solo piano pieces, soundtracks and ambient music, and at the moment it's 73% off at VST Buzz, so that makes it €18.99. Check the description for the link. I reviewed Super Audio Cart in the Samplecast 13 and I really loved it. It was definitely one of my favourite libraries that's been out this year so far, and they've just updated to version 1.1. Now the main draw with this update is there's a whole new console that's been sampled. It's the Japanese only FC. They've also managed to reduce the RAM usage, they've changed the way velocity mapping works, and there are 140 new sounds as well. All this is free for existing users. If you haven't picked it up already, head to Impact Soundworks for the update. And Impact Soundworks have also released a nice YouTube video showing some of the updates in action. Here's one of this week's big reviews, and it's Retcon Boards of Canada Synthesis from AudioWarp. That's available via the Contact Hub website. Thank you so much to Contact Hub for sending me a copy of this for review. The library is based around providing source sounds for ambient and synth music based on the tunes of Boards of Canada. So you've got here leads, plucks, pads and atmospheres, and they've all got a nice kind of analogue tone. This library runs in the full version of Contact only, and it's about 2.5 gigabytes compressed. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying this review is going to be very difficult to explain what's happening in this library, and I'm showing you the interface now, but it won't really help much with what I'm saying. It's the sort of library where you do have to head to the manual or to the extensive walkthrough videos. Both the manual and the walkthrough videos are pretty good, but even after you've purchased this library, you are going to be referring back to those because of that unique interface. The interface itself is based around an unusual hexagon arrangement which uses colour coding, so not all of the controls are where you think they ought to be, but they are mostly there. You've got a dual voice engine here, so you can choose between 84 different sound sources, and you can use 3 filters per voice to shape the sound using LFOs and envelopes. There's also a modulation panel for tremolo and pitch modulation. There's an FX panel too, you've got options in there, and the standout interface panel for me is the volume, chord and pitch sequencing panel, which makes for very interesting progressions if you use unusual chord voicings. So there was plenty to like about this library. The sounds are really lush, expansive, and kind of drifting as well. They've got that nice analog kind of warbling quality. There are also plenty of options for manipulating them in the engine, as long as you can figure out that engine in the first place. The chord sequencer is a standout. It can create really interesting and unusual soundscapes really easily. Also, the 130 snapshots show off what the instrument can do really well, so I was really impressed with those. In terms of things that I think could be improved, well, the interface is going to be really divisive for some people. Not all the controls are where you think they ought to be, and as I say, you're going to have to refer to the manual and the walkthrough video to get your head around exactly what's happening. The interface is very pretty, and I do like a unique take on a contact instrument rather than just the usual slides and knobs, but you're going to have to research this to get the most out of the instrument. There's a few things negotiating the interface that I would have liked to improve upon. A back button would have been useful. I was kind of clicking around trying to find how to get back to various screens, so that would have been handy. Maybe an in-interface help screen next time would be useful, just something in the corner that I can click and see exactly what all of those different hexagons do. Overall, I think if you're wanting some analog sounds in that Boards of Canada vibe, Retcon is really going to sort you out, and if you take the time to delve deep into that interface and know what you're doing with the unusual controls, then you're really going to get some stellar production out of this. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's Samplecast. Don't forget about the podcast where you can hear all of the products that I've mentioned in action. I'll be back again next week. In the meantime, bye bye now.